talking about the 13 books that I read in September. I know! 13 books! What even? I was just apparently really in a reading mood last month. I managed to finish 13 books, and now I'm gonna tell you guys what I thought about them all. So first up, I want to talk about Rumble by Ellen Hopkins. And this was the Booksplosion Book of the Month pick for September. This month we're working with Simon & Schuster. They sent me this book for my reading enjoyment, and I did enjoy it. It wasn't what I expected, but I enjoyed it. When I gave you guys the synopsis before, there was this line about the main character hearing a rumble that becomes a voice. That's what I was expecting. I was thinking that was going to happen really early on, and then the main character would kind of be dealing with that throughout the book, but that was not the case. There are definitely some religious themes happening here, but the story isn't really about that. It's more about the main character, Matt, kind of coming to terms with his younger brother's suicide. Matt is a really angry kid, and he puts a lot of blame on other people and on himself, and he's really just trying to cope and deal with his crappy situation. It's not really a story of religion as much as it is a story of forgiveness. And the writing, okay, it did take me a little bit to get used to this new writing style, but the words themselves were beautiful. I loved the writing. It was so poetic, yet also very accessible, and there were so many beautiful thoughts just articulated so well. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was really close to being a 5-star book for me, but I did feel the ending was a bit too rushed, and I didn't quite get the closure that I wanted. But I do still recommend this book, especially if you enjoy realistic fiction that deals with topics like suicide and bullying and dysfunctional family dynamics and religious belief. If you've read this book and you want to hear more of my thoughts, then be sure to tune in to the live show discussion on Saturday, October 4th. I'll go ahead and put all of the details in the description. Next up, I have The Clockwork Scarab and The Spirit Glass Charade by Colleen Gleason. These are books 1 and 2 of the Stoker and Holmes series, and I received these from the publisher for review. So this series takes place in an alternate history where electricity has been outlawed in favor of steam power. You got some supernatural elements involved in the form of vampires and time travel and some others I don't want to spoil you on. And it's told in a dual point of view from Mina Holmes, who is the niece of Sherlock Holmes, and Evelyn Stoker, who is the younger sister of Bram Stoker. Mina, in true Holmes fashion, is very observant and intelligent and kinda sassy. And Evelyn comes from a long line of vampire hunters, so she has super strength and speed, and she's also kinda sassy. And through a common mentor, the two of them are brought together to investigate some mysteries. I really enjoyed both of these, but I did prefer the second one to the first one. There is a lot of stuff going on here. You have the alternate history and the steampunk world building and vampires and time travel and Egyptian mythology and all sorts of stuff. So it did take me a while to get into it and kind of get settled in this world. But once I did, it was all just really cool and really fun. I gave the first book 3.5 out of 5 stars because it did have quite a bit of setup and not the most satisfying conclusion. But the second book I was really into, and all of that setup from the first book really paid off because I was able to just jump right in. The story arc was a lot stronger and the conclusion was much more satisfying. I'd give this one a 4, maybe a 4.5, somewhere in that range. But yeah, if any of that stuff sounds cool to you, then definitely give these a try. This book comes out on October 7th, so just a few days here, and these were great to marathon. They're fun and lighthearted and just filled with lots of cool stuff. Next up, I read The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. This is the second book in the Fifth Wave trilogy, and I'm not going to talk about the plot because I don't want to spoil you, but this installment was actually a little disappointing for me. I loved the first book. I gave it 5 stars. I was really anticipating this book, and I started reading it as soon as I got it, but I found it really hard to get into, like it wasn't as gripping. I was also really confused at times, and not in a good, confusing, mysterious way, but in a bad, I don't understand what is happening kind of way. Now, the ending was really awesome, and it did a lot to redeem this book for me. And even though I was kind of disappointed by this one, I am still really invested in the series overall. I love the world, and I think the writing is fantastic, and the characters are great, but the story of this installment was just okay for me. I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars because it wasn't bad, like I still liked it, but it was hard to get into and it just wasn't as good as it could have been. Next up, I have The Maze Runner by Rick Yancey. This is about a boy named Thomas who wakes up in the center of this crazy maze with no memories. He's surrounded by a bunch of other boys who are trapped there too, and they pretty much have one goal, and that is to get out of the maze. I was really unsure going into this book because I'd heard so many mixed things about it, but I ended up liking it more than I thought I was going to. It was really entertaining and I was never bored reading it. Like, the mystery of the maze kept me flipping those pages, but I did still have some issues with it. I didn't really connect to any of the characters, and I was a little disappointed with the whole solution to the mystery because it wasn't really surprising and it wasn't really satisfying as an individual book. Like, it was really dependent on the rest of the books in the series. I don't like that. I want more of a conclusion in the first book. And while I might go ahead and pick up that next book, it's not exactly a huge priority for me. Like, I might just wait to see the next movie. Which, by the way, I saw the Maze Runner movie and I liked it more than the book. I felt like the characters were more fleshed out and the action on the big screen was really thrilling and awesome. But I had the same problem with the story in the movie as I did with the story in the book. I just didn't get enough answers to be satisfied with this as a single installment. Next up, I have The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This book is about a boy named Callum who has been told his entire life that if he goes to the Magisterium, this school for mages, he will die. So he tries really hard to fail the Iron Trial, the test that will send him to this school, and he fails it and goes home, and the book is over. Just kidding! Of course he ends up going to the Magisterium. It's the title of the series. I really enjoyed this book. I do love a good boarding school story, so throw in some magic and I am there. I know that the first thing people think of when you hear boy goes to magic school is Harry Potter. And starting this book, I had some theories and expectations of what was gonna happen, and I was really pleasantly surprised by the directions this book took. And I am so pumped for the rest of the series. At the end of this book, everything is just so well laid out, and I can't wait to see where it goes, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue to be pleasantly surprised with the direction of this series. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because while I did really enjoy it, I didn't quite connect with the characters as much as I wanted to, though that's a really common issue for me when reading middle grade. But I expect that will change as I read more books in this series, which, again, I'm really looking forward to. Then I have Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. And I'm actually not going to talk about this book at all because I put up a 20-minute discussion video, so if you want to know more of my thoughts, go watch that. I will just say that I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was my favorite book I read this month, and if you haven't yet started this series, what are you doing? Go start it. Go read it now. Right now. Right now. Next up, I have Illusions of Fate by Kiersten White. This is a standalone historical fantasy novel. It's about a girl named Jessamine who moves from this small island village to the mainland so she can attend the school there. But then she ends up getting swept into this battle of magic and politics, and even though she's not really involved in that whole world, she might just be the only one who can stop this looming disaster. I've really enjoyed Kiersten White's other books, so I was expecting to like this book, but I ended up loving it. I mean, it's only 300 pages, but I read it all in one sitting the night I got it. It was hilarious and fun, and the magic was really cool, and I loved the characters so much. Like, after I finished this book, I actually started flipping through it and reading scenes again because I just wanted to spend more time with the characters. Jessa was a fantastic protagonist. She was smart and brave, and I was just rooting for her the whole time. And then Finn was so charming, and Eleanor was so much fun, and I love them. I love them. Another aspect I really loved was the political and magical power struggle. Like, that was just a great story. And like I said, I have enjoyed the other Kiersten White books that I've read, but this one is my favorite of hers. So if you're gonna read one book by Kiersten White, pick up this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I loved it. And while it was very satisfying as a standalone, if there were more books in this series, I would pick them up in a heartbeat. And finally, I read the first 5 books of the Bloodline series by Rochelle Mead. So when I was waiting for The Infinite Sea to come out, I didn't have anything else that I immediately wanted to read. So Christine was like, "Can I pick something out for you to read?" And I was like, "Maybe." And then she handed me Bloodlines. And I was like, okay. I flew through these books. Like, I read all 5 of them over the course of 6 days. I'd forgotten how much I loved this world and these characters and Rochelle Mead's writing. I didn't love these quite as much as the Vampire Academy novels, but obviously I did still really enjoy them. I gave each book a 4 out of 5, mostly because of the constant recapping, which probably bothered me a lot more than it should have because of how fast I read these. But each book just had so much recapping of past events. Like, Jill would make her first appearance in the 3rd book, and we would get half a page of Jill's life story. That's probably an exaggeration, but it's kind of what it felt like. I do love the characters though, and the relationship dynamics are just so good. And I loved the development of the alchemists and the witches and some other world development that I can't talk about because spoilers, but it was good. And now I'm finally caught up with Adrian, and I'm ready for the Ruby Circle. February 2015, I'm ready. Bring it on. And once I finish the Ruby Circle, I will be doing a series discussion video. So if you want to know more of my spoilery thoughts, February 2015. Alright, there you have it. Those are the 13 books I read in September, and thus concludes the longest wrap-up of my life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great night, and I will have another vlog up soon, so I will see you then. Goodbye! I am exhausted and really hot, and my voice is dying. And I want to go read a book, but I'm worried what that might do for my next month wrap-up. The struggle.